Jah Rastafari, Empress Manina HaileSelassieI, first balance, Alpha and Omega, Rastafari. We give thanks. Yeah, we're here right now reasoning on Chapter 2, Education, Wise Mind of His Imperial Majesty. The camera at the time ran out, so we're back in again. We never planned it to go this long, but sometimes the spirit takes over, the reasoning takes over. It's the season to reason. Word, sound, power, things are forgotten. Yeah, family. So we're in Chapter 2, Education, one of the most important chapters in this book, one of my favorite chapters, one of the things that His Majesty stood for, first and foremost, education. Yeah? The possession of degrees alone does not classify anyone as fully educated. Like I say, His Majesty is talking not only about the education gained within the four walls of a classroom, but education gained from life experience in itself, as you're about to hear. Yeah? Alright, let's forward on. We're talking about education. His Majesty is talking about universities. Let's not forget about HaileSelassieI University. Yeah? Universities stand today as the most promising hope for constructive solutions to the problems that beset the modern world. Promises which prevent the peaceful cooperation of nations. Problems which threaten the world and humanity with death and disaster. From the universities must come men with ideas. From the universities must come men, ideas, knowledge, experience, technical skills, and the deep humane understanding vital to fruitful relations among nations. Without these, world order, for which we have so long strived, cannot be established. Yeah? So from the universities must come ideas, knowledge, experience, technical skills, and men with the deep humane understanding vital to fruitful relations among nations. Otherwise, the order of the world, there will be no order. Yeah? So His Majesty is talking about if universities and if these institutions are used properly and, run properly and organized properly to actually complete the task which they have been assigned, then they stand as the most promising hope for constructive solutions. But as we know, as we can see with the fountain dried up in His Majesty's University, and I'm talking about all universities worldwide, it ain't so. The thing run like a business. Anyway, let's continue. His Majesty says that a university is the fountain of learning. Seek knowledge and there you shall find it. A fundamental objective of the university must be the safeguarding and the developing of the culture of the people of which it serves. Yeah? A fundamental objective of the university must be the safeguarding and the developing of the culture of the people which it serves. Rastafari. Check this now. From the universities too must come the ability, which is the most valuable attribute of civilized men everywhere. The ability to transcend narrow passions and to engage in honest conversation. Honest conversation. For civilization is by nature the victory of persuasion over force. So, His Majesty is saying that within university, it might be that ones might learn how to reason on a level, or how to, understand another's ideas and, come to a collective decision without arguing and saying this man's right, this man's wrong. You know what I mean? So, we're talking about education. So, a little bit right there on the universities. Yeah? Now, this is one of my favorite all-time quotes from His Majesty. He says here that the mere existence of a fund of knowledge is not enough. Unless knowledge is nurtured and nourished by devoted teachers and eager students alike, it will, like a pool of water following the rains, change its hue and slowly disappear. One more time, Rastafari. The mere existence of a fund of knowledge is not enough. Unless knowledge is nurtured and nourished by devoted teachers and eager students alike, it will, like a pool of water following the rains, change its hue and slowly disappear. One more time. The mere existence of a fund of knowledge is not enough. Unless knowledge is nurtured and nourished by devoted teachers and eager students alike, it will, like a pool of water following the rains, change its hue and slowly disappear. So this comes to the fountain again, the fountain of knowledge. If the fountain is not constantly cared for, tended to, added to, nurtured and nourished, by devoted teachers, by teachers who actually are devoted to helping their students learn and grow. And by eager students alike, the students also must be eager in their studies, eager to learn and to develop themselves. Unless this takes place, the fund of knowledge, just like a pool of water following the rains, will change its hue and slowly disappear, evaporate. Yeah? So knowledge must always be added to. You must always be studying and topping up your knowledge, because, you know, we can learn something today and then we think, oh, okay, we know that. And then we don't bother with it again for 5 years. In 5 years' time, you might have forgotten. Or if you learnt it well, you might not. It might take 10 years, but you have to keep adding to that knowledge. And we know that we say knowledge is power, and this is true. But knowledge is also power only when applied properly. Because like His Majesty says in this book as well, that knowledge is power, but if not used properly to create, have no doubts it will destroy. Yeah? So forward on right now, family, we are reading from chapter 2, Education, the wise mind of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie first. Big up yourself, locked in. Drop us a comment down below. Like, subscribe, share, and all those things. Let's keep the reasoning going. If there's anything you want to add, drop it there, yeah? Rastafari, big up. So His Majesty continues here. A school is to shape one's character, just as looking into a mirror could rid himself of the dirt that is on his person. Likewise can one shape his character by education. Man would prefer to speak of his nation in terms of its educated men and women, rather than by recounting the size of its population. It is understood that the independence of mind created by education individually will have as a result the creation of an independently minded nation. Hear that one again now. It is understood, overstood and understood that the independence of mind created by education individually will have as a result the creation of an independently minded nation. So His Majesty is reminding us to keep your mind independent thoughts. Too many of us, talking from experience, we've all experienced it before we break out of the matrix and the system and whatever. We've all been through this collective thought syndrome, which Babylon program us into as children, as youths, when they brainwash us, when they put all these things in our head. You know, sometimes you might even find adults these days, when you ask them something, they don't have an opinion. They can't form their own verdict because they've not done their research, because they're following the opinion of the masses. They've been told what to think. They have been told what to think. So this is why you must think independently with your own thoughts, logically, critical analysis. Rastafari, very important, family. And His Majesty says that if ones are educated in this independence of mind individually, that as a result, this will have as a result the creation of an independently minded nation. Yeah. So right now in Ethiopia, a lot of people as well, a lot of my brothers and sisters, looking outside, looking to go England, to go America, looking here, looking there, you know what I mean, following the thoughts that we've been told to think. Like we have to run away to one of those places. No, we have to think on a next level of consciousness. How can we build up Ethiopia from within? How can we build up Africa now? You know what I mean? Deeper reasonings. We have to forward on to stick within the time. Rastafari, drop your comments below, family. Big up yourself. His Majesty says here that humanity by nature is gifted to think freely, but in order that his free thought should lead him to the goal of liberty and independence, his way of thinking must be shaped by the process of education. Yeah? Humanity by nature is gifted to think freely, but in order that his free thought should lead him to the goal of liberty and independence, his way of thinking must be shaped by the process of education, because at the same time, we do have people that are able to think independently, but they might not have been guided in the right way, and therefore those thoughts might go towards a wrong thing or a negative thing or something that is not productive or constructive. Yeah? So His Majesty again is reinforcing the importance of education. Rastafari. The development of the resources of intelligence which education draws forth from our people, vital as it is, without moral inspiration and guidance, can never of itself work for the good of all. So that refers as well to the previous quote. Yeah, the development of the resources of intelligence which education draws forth from our people, without moral inspiration and guidance, can never of itself work for the good of all. So unless somebody is morally guided in the right direction to use their knowledge for good, that knowledge will never be of benefit to anybody. Yeah? Rastafari, deep reasonings right now. And this goes for all of humanity, what we're talking about. For every individual listening right now. You know what I mean? It's up to the Adam how you interpret this. You know what I mean? Because His Majesty has written words for all of the world, for Ethiopia, for Africa, for all of humanity to overstand. And it's up to ones and ones to check these words and see how they resonate with you. You know what I mean? And do your research, family. Big up. Check it now. All the knowledge to be drawn from the fountainhead of education not only contributes to the well-being of mankind and to the performance of humanitarian deeds, but is also a veritable pillar upholding the liberty of the land. Rastafari. The catastrophe which was brought about by human hands during the past years can be avoided in the future by religion and hope in God, which should be in the heart of the people. And this can be achieved by education, which, if not borne by the youth, the effort which is made for peace will be in vain. Yeah? So His Majesty is saying that obviously at the time he's speaking, Ethiopia's just been through the war with Italy and many things. So he's talking about the catastrophe brought about by human hands in the past years. He says in future can be avoided if people have hope in God, which should be from the heart. And he says this can be achieved through education, but if it is not born through the youth, it will be in vain. Rastafari. Yes, family. So forward on right now, yeah? Education, chapter 2. We're almost at the end of this chapter. Boom, deep reasonings, drop your comments, etc., etc. Yeah? So yeah, His Majesty says in that quote, you know, how can we hope for a peaceful future if we don't teach the youth about peace? If the youth are not the ambassadors of peace, we cannot hope for a peaceful future because the youth are the future. You know what I mean? So it don't matter, me and you can be talking about peace and, you know, we can love God in our heart. If the coming generation don't have those values, how can we hope for a better future from they are the future? You know what I mean? So this is the importance of education. The conquering lion of the tribe of Judah done tell you, because this is coming straight from the lion's mouth, not my mouth. Me, I'm just helping to convey the message or analyzing from my own interpretation. But these words are coming straight from the lion's mouth. So go and check the book for yourself, The Wise Mind of His Imperial Majesty Emperor HaileSelassieI. The latest printing does have a different cover. I have that copy as well. I will show that item in the next video. Right now, we have to forward on. As the gospel tells us, a house built upon strong foundations can never be overthrown by storms. Similarly, when people are built up with minds well formed by education and knowledge, no trial of whatever kind can conquer them. Yeah? So a house built upon strong foundations, the rain has just started falling, showers of blessings as we're talking about the storms. A house built upon strong foundation can never be overthrown by a storm. Similarly, when people are built up with minds well formed by education and knowledge, no trial of whatever kind can conquer them. So this goes to what we were talking about before, about the youth being prepared for whatever life will bring in their way. Yeah? Yes, family. So we're going to forward on. 2 quotes remain from this chapter, education. Education and the quest for knowledge stop only at the grave. Yeah? So some of us say that we study at the University of Life because we deal with the education that life gives us. So His Majesty says education and the quest for knowledge stop only at the grave. And in another quote he says that anybody who says they have learned enough and will learn no further should be considered as knowing nothing at all. Yes, family. So sometimes we might not want to hear certain things as truth. And like me say in one of my tunes, one of my lyrics, one of my spoken word sound power pieces, soon I know the truth will prevail and it will pierce skin like the heaviest hail. Rastafari I know. So yeah, like I say, I and I, we're not here to preach, we're not here to convert. We are here to promote the knowledge of His Imperial Majesty, to promote the remembrance of who His Majesty is, of the works of His Majesty, the teachings of His Majesty, what His Majesty stands for. What did His Majesty do in his time as the King of Kings of Ethiopia? Because there are so many of you that would like to say, oh, His Majesty did this and that. What did he really do? Stop listening to Chinese whispers and do your research. Because I'm sure many watching now will not even know that His Majesty has any books. And this is just a short, like, look, His Majesty has autobiographies, part 1, part 2. His Majesty has books of speeches in Amharic and English, maybe even French as well. This is just a selection taken from all of those. Yeah. So you can't tell me that you know His Majesty if you've not researched these books, if you've not read for yourself the words of His Majesty, because many people can tell you about somebody. Yeah, many people can tell you about me. But if you want to know the truth, why not come to me and get my side of the story? So when it comes to His Majesty, everybody likes to say this and this and this, but nobody wants to check His Majesty for themselves and say, yo, what does His Majesty have to say on this topic? You know what I mean? Because that's where the truth lies. And I feel like the reason people don't want to check it is because they know that when they check the truth, it will dismantle the lie that they had been living. You know what I mean? Rastafari. Last quote now from chapter 2, Education. From truth alone are born liberty, and only an educated people can consider itself as really free and master of its fate. Yeah? From truth alone are born liberty, and only an educated people can consider itself as really free and master of its fate. Rastafari. Now, family, obviously, since His Majesty is such a huge ambassador of education, there are many more quotes on education that we didn't get to in this chapter. But like I say, His Majesty has a quote where he speaks about how education is not only that found within the four walls of a classroom, but that of life experience itself. There's a lot of quotes where His Majesty is talking about the importance of education. And if we look at the work of His Majesty, HaileSelassieI University, His Majesty is the one who sent so many students abroad to study in the hope that they would bring this knowledge back to help Ethiopia to grow. And we know that the students, when they come back, they got impatient. And we know the rest is history. It's a sad history. We don't like to go into it right now in this video, because it's a sad history and it make man vex. You know what I mean? Because the people got impatient. They couldn't wait for change. And they took what His Majesty had given them and they turned it against him. What a shame. Rastafari. But we know. Jah know. So, family, know the history, know thyself, know the truth, good over evil, like His Majesty says, analyze all, study and examine all, but keep only the good. Yeah. We know that His Majesty as well accepted many students from foreign countries who came to study in Ethiopia. At the time was renowned to go and study in Addis Ababa University, and HaileSelassieI University was a big thing. Right now, like I say, we don't know who's running the place, but when I visit, the fountain is dried up. And obviously, inside His Majesty's University now, they have His Majesty's bedroom and Empress Menen bedroom, like a little museum where you can go and visit. Very nice and spiritual space. But sometimes the way they treat I and I as Rasta people coming to visit His Majesty's University, one of the most important universities in Africa, any visitor must be treated like royalty, because it's a royal place, because it was set up by His Imperial Majesty and it used to be the palace. So family, education is key. We know it truly. Go check out the book Wise Mind. Big up Frontline Books, yeah? You can get it on Amazon. You get it from Frontline Direct. Wherever you are, like I say, these days it has a different front cover. This is an older printing. Enough information. And like I say, if all world leaders followed the instructions and the reasonings given in this book, I know for a fact that the world will be a better place. So more love, family. Guidance and protection. Blessings, love and light until such time. Stay up, stay focused, stay positive. Drop your comments down below and we will meet again very shortly. Give thanks for watching. Kadamawe Haile Selassie first. Jah Rastafari. Balance.